All right, I'm finally gonna show you what undercoating looks like after years of doing it myself with no fancy gimmicks, just raw footage. If you've ever wondered what DIY undercoat looks like, this is the video for you. So I own Southern New Hampshire Mobile Undercoat. I've been undercoating for about 15 years or so, friends, family, neighbors, whoever, you know, crawling on my back with the fluid film spray guns, the little cup guns, and you know, it sucks, I'm not gonna lie, it's terrible. But last year, the end of last year, I opened up Southern New Hampshire Mobile Undercoat, and it's been doing great. I've got a full setup here, a full trailer, all kinds of new equipment, so I want to explain to you the difference between some of the equipment that I use and some of the equipment that I used before, the benefits, the positives, the negatives, kind of that stuff, and then give you a little more in-depth view on my personal truck, how it's held up, what it looks like, you know, that kind of thing. So let's dive into it. So I'll start out giving you a rundown on my truck. This is a 2018 F-150. I bought it used with, I don't know, it had like 18,000 miles on it. I think it was a lease. And so obviously it saw a year with no undercoating in New England. So it saw a bunch of salt and stuff, but that's not the end of the world. I have been undercoating it every year since then, and it's now November 26th of 2025. So whatever that is, 8 years or so. And I started out by using fluid film. Then I went to fluid film black, and actually for the past, I don't know, 3 years or so, I've been using NHOU. So they are combined, which is not the end of the world. They're totally made to mix with each other. And as you can see, the bottom of this is gross. It's black, it's nasty, but really not seeing much rust anywhere. There is rust in some places. I mean, oil undercoating isn't perfect. This is designed to make a vehicle last longer. It's not made to design a vehicle lasts forever. A little bit of rust there. A little bit right here. You get some right here. I mean, the differential looks pretty good. There's a little loose spot right there under the sticker, which somehow has still been holding on. I don't know how that's still on there. We've got the spare tire down, so I actually just wiped this earlier, but you can see underneath this is just paint. This is perfectly clean. I mean, there's some rust on the spring here for the perch, you know, but the holder itself is totally fine. You've got a little bit of rust right there. Trying to show you guys kind of everything. You know, stuff like the exhaust, this gets so hot, this is gonna melt and burn off any undercoating that's on here. So stuff like this is just kind of expendable. I mean, I won't really coat this when I undercoat something anyway. Obviously I'll do this bracket, but I won't do this. So one thing, I installed this fifth wheel last year and I didn't have time to undercoat this truck. I was just too busy. And as you can see, this is 1 year of in the salt. You can see how crappy the springs already are. All the bolt heads are already not looking good. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to touch this up. And I had today off. I purposely didn't schedule anyone today so I could do some stuff around the house. So I wanted to touch that up and touch up some other loose spots on here, especially because, like I said earlier, I just opened this business a little bit ago and I've got a lot of new equipment that can spray into areas that, frankly, those cheap Amazon guns just can't. They can't get in there. The hoses are like 3/8 diameter, so any small areas you just can't spray into. And that's gonna be nice to spray some of those spots to make sure that this truck lasts as long as it can, because I don't know about you guys, but I can't afford new vehicles. So this 18 runs good, I keep it clean, and I'd like to keep it for a long time. This is the cup gun I was talking about. You've seen these on Amazon. They're probably, you know, anywhere from 60 to 110 bucks or something. This one's made by Kelsports. I've had this for a long time. I've put a lot of oil through this thing. I actually think, I haven't used it in so long, I think there's actually fluid film in here still. But this is the 361s they come with. So this unscrews, this screws into here, and then you can take this, it's got holes on all sides, and you can take this and actually put it inside the frame and then spray the other way. You can kind of spray in stuff like this in here. You're not going to be able to get in these little holes, or you know, you're not going to be able to spray really tight to things. Like, let's say you don't want to get anything on the catalytic converter, obviously, but you want to spray on top of the frame here. This just isn't going to work. So they do have wands like this that have just an out hole and no side holes, and you can kind of get above that, but it's not really gonna work. You're not gonna make that 90-degree turn to the top of the frame there. It's just not gonna happen. They're not good for getting above cross members and stuff, so I'd be spraying all over the exhaust, which is, you know, an inch away from this if you tried to do that. They're not good for anything that you want to avoid. So let's say I'm taking these skid plates down, and obviously there's all the belts under there. You don't want to get anything on that. It's really hard to not spray that. Do they work? Yes, they work great. I used it for years. Millions of people use them. They're all over the place. Everybody has one. But for a professional setup, you're doing this all the time, this is just not something you want to use. It's kind of like comparing if you've got a professional automotive painter. Can they use the Harbor Freight spray gun for 20 bucks? Yes. Is it going to come out as good? Probably not. They're going to have to work twice as hard, but it does work. This is the fogger gun that I use for getting into all the tight locations. So this has a whole bunch of different attachments I can put on here. This quick attaches. This mixes and the red line is the oil, and the green line is the air. So they call this the fogger gun. I can control how much is coming out of it. So if I just want a little bit of oil, I can do that. And what this does is it makes a huge fog of oil. So this gun, if I sprayed the fog of oil, would go all over that aluminum door right there. These are great for getting into literally everything. So these fit into all the tiny holes that you normally wouldn't be able to get into. I can stick this in here and spray that way, flip it around, spray this way. It's gonna coat the whole inside. I can spray above things and not make a mess. So I make sure to not get anything on the converter here. You know, I can spray above this and angle it down so I'm getting the top of that cross member. They're awesome. There is 360 ones for this too. I have one in my box there. It's basically this diameter, maybe a tiny bit smaller, and it's about 3 feet long, and it sprays 360. I love those for getting on the inside of front fenders on vehicles. So I do that when the vehicle's on the ground. I'll get the inside of the front fenders there. I have a whole bunch of other wands for that. I'm not gonna explain everything. You know, it just depends on the situation, but they are fantastic. I do have other guns. The other one that I have is a airless gun. So that is basically, if I were to explain it, is kind of like that cup gun on steroids. So the airless guns are what you see when they're basically paint guns. People that paint the inside of houses, it's basically what they are. So these guns use just oil. So they look like this. They've got one line going into them. I have a spray wand here, which is also at a 45, and this sprays a huge fan pattern. So I can use that and spray all of the outsides of things. I don't use that for the inside of anything. They kind of spray a lot of oil. You can't control how much oil is coming out of them. They're on or off, but they're very efficient. You can put down a lot of product really quickly. They are controllable. It's a flat fan pattern, not a round fan like those other cup guns. I don't use the fogger gun for the outsides of things. Sometimes I do. If I'm doing vehicles like SUVs and stuff that don't really have a lot of coverage underneath, and you know, you're spraying flat panels, I don't feel like hooking up the other gun, I'll just use the fogger gun. There's no point in pulling out that other thing. But anything that is like a truck or, you know, a box truck or anything with a frame, basically, I'm gonna use that airless gun. So that pretty much describes the equipment that I use. I don't want to get into too much detail. I don't want to bore you guys to death. I'm going to show you a couple of the spots of the frame. Like for instance, the front control arms here. I did wipe this previously, and you can still see the factory numbers. I mean, that's factory black paint right there. There is rust though. I'm not going to hide anything. There's rust on this weld here. There is rust on the stud. I will admit though, this ends link, I did replace last year, and I probably just didn't coat this. I think I just anti-seized the stud and installed them, so shame on me for that. I mean, you've got a little bit of rust right there. We'll look at the other control arm here. I mean, yeah, you've got some rust on the weld, a little bit right there, a little right there. Same thing with the stud, same situation, but I mean, this is factory paint right there. I guarantee if you find a 2018 F-150 that's never been undercoated and that lives in New England, the control arms are absolutely not going to look like that. Not going to happen. There is one other thing I want to show you though. with the spare tire, I always make sure to take down the spare tires if I can. This one I've taken down, obviously previously and undercoated it. So what happens is these sit under the vehicle and, you know, dirt and salt and whatever make turbulence in here, and it all sits on the top of the wheel like this one. So as you can see, this is full of dirt and sand and stuff, but it's coated. So underneath that is clean. Clean black metal. I'm just gonna leave this. I don't wanna blast all this off because I gotta recoat it. But, and this is the back side. So in other words, this is the side that's facing down. This isn't the top when it's up there. So this is the side that's not gonna collect a lot of crap. But it's got that nice coating on it. There is a tiny bit of rust right there. I think that's actually from the, it's actually just sitting. Yeah, it's just sitting on it. It's not even on the wheel. That's from the spring, which I showed you before, which has some rust on it. When I was taking this off, that rust just fell on it. But spare tires are one of those things where you want to make sure that you're coating them because you don't need it until you need it. So a lot of people forget about the spare, or they don't take it down when they undercoat, and then the top of that wheel just gets full of sand and full of salt, and it sits in that weld seam and just rots the wheel out. So I try to ask everyone to take the spare tire down before I'm there, and it's honestly a good thing because I would say 75% of the people say, oh, I don't know how to take my spare tire down. I'll have to figure that out. And it's great because it's better to learn how to take your spare tire down, you know, when you've called me and you've got 2-3 weeks advance until I come, than when you're on the side of the road in the middle of a rainstorm and you've got a flat tire and you have no cell service and you don't know how to take it down. So everybody should know how to take the spare tire down. Obviously, if somebody's older and they can't do it, or they're disabled, that's a different situation. You know, I'm not telling them to do that. But someone that's able-bodied, you should be able to take your spare tire down. Only other thing I want to tell you guys is, in the wintertime, what I do to make sure this thing stays clean. You wanna know what I do? I don't wash it once. I never wash this truck. This truck gets washed maybe once a year, maybe twice if I'm bored, in the springtime or the summer. I don't wash it in the winter. I don't do the undercarriage washes because they actually recycle the water, so they do filter out the particles, so the dirt and stuff, but that salt solution is still in the water. You're just blasting salt water all in the undercarriage of your vehicle. And honestly, those sprayers don't reach any of the spots that really matter anyway. So you're kind of just wasting your money. You can do it, might help a little bit. You know, I'm not a scientist. I haven't done any real R&D on that, but I can tell you the people that do that, in general, it doesn't really work. I just let the salt sit on here. Let it sit. I'm gonna put up some pictures of what my vehicle looks like in the middle of winter. That salt and brine is just caked on this coating. It's just caked on here. And it can't hurt anything, because as long as that oil's here, it's protecting it, and it's making sure that oxygen is not getting to the frame and it's not rusting out. Anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed all that information, and hopefully I didn't miss anything. I probably did. I'm sure you'll comment down below what I missed. My fingers are cold. I want to go inside. I want to eat lunch. If you need professional undercoating services, message us at snhmobileundercoat.com. See you later. Just kidding, I'm back. I don't have any information. Just wanted to show you that Mother Nature decided to make it snow while I was working, so New England weather can change in an instant. Anyway, bye for real this time.